Leslie here with Parenting Paused. This week, let's talk a little bit deeper about parenting the child you have instead of parenting the child you want. Now, this is such a great topic, right? Because we live in a culture that actually compares. We have all the developmental charts. We have all of the things that tell us how our children should be at certain ages and certain developmental stages. And so, of course, when we are comparing our children to the outside, it makes it really hard to parent the child that we have. Now, of course, in Purejoy, we always go back to looking inside and finding out what is that need that we have to have a child that looks the way that we want them to look. Now, I am very, very guilty of this one because I had this fantasy of how my child was going to be, how she was going to fit into my world, how we were going to go shopping, we were going to go to movies, museums. Well, that is not the child that I got. My child doesn't like museums. My child doesn't like to go out to eat. My child doesn't like many of the things that I like. So, of course, when I went inside, I had a feeling of rejection and abandonment because clearly, if I was doing the right thing, maybe I could get this child to be the child that I wanted. Have you ever felt that? I know I have, and so many of the parents that I work with have. And yet, let me tell you, if you're struggling in your parenting, if you're struggling with an individual child, you may be parenting for the child that you want instead of the child that you actually have. So this week, let's talk about some of the questions that you can ask yourself. Now, instead of going, my child never listens, my child never cooperates, my child is defensive, my child is defiant, all of those things that you may perceive when you see the child that you don't want, and you want your child to be cooperative, you want them to listen to you. Well, the questions you're going to ask yourself this week are, when does my child listen to me? Think about it for a second. There have to be times when your child listens to you. It may be only when they want what they want. Who knows? But find that place where your child listens to you. Okay, so secondly, when does my child cooperate? How am I? How am I approaching my child? How am I with my child? What am I doing to show up in a way that my child can cooperate? Now, the reason I say this, because so many people are like, well, children just need to listen and they need to do what we say. Well, actually, no. I mean, do you? If someone says you need to do this, you need to do it now, you need to do it when I tell you to do it, you need to do how I tell you to do it so you can be a better person. Do you want to listen? I know I don't. I really need someone to turn inward and look inside and say, okay, when does Leslie show up? When does she light up? When does she cooperate? Now, this makes parenting so much easier. And yet in our culture, we have this norm or this idea that all children should be a certain way. Now, I don't agree with this at all because I have met so many children that are so unique and so different. And everyone deserves to be loved for who they are, not how we want them to be. Now, the root of this is coming back in and really looking at who you are. How do you treat yourself when you don't listen, or when you don't want to cooperate, or when you don't want to give things? How do you treat yourself? Do you try to force yourself to be overly generous? Do you try to force yourself to show up and you really don't want to? Do you try to connect, and you have a really challenging time separating because you feel guilty and shame? Go inside, start there. How do you treat yourself? Do you give yourself the permission to be the person that you are instead of the person that you are supposed to be, to fit into the culture, to get the love that you want? What's it like to go back in and start reparenting yourself loving who you are, your unique flavor, your unique being, and then begin to look out and see each of your children, if you have more than one, as unique flowers, as I say in the garden. So of course, you're not going to put a sunflower in the shade. Yes, and you're not going to treat a rose the same way you do a cactus. So parent yourself and then parent the child that you have, and then let me know how it goes. See if you get more cooperation. See if they start to listen more. Just let me know. Reach out at Leslie@purejoyparenting.com. I would love to hear, and I'm so excited that you're here for another time of Parenting Paused.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Purejoy message out. Come on over to the Purejoy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Purejoy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Purejoy world.